Know Thyself is dedicated to the exploration of the most rewarding task an individual can ever embark on, the journey to find oneself. This is the Know Thyself podcast. Cool, I'm rolling. All right, welcome to the Know Thyself podcast. I'm here with Daniel.
Hello.
And I am Eduardo, and it's great to see you on this new year, on the Lunar Year. And I'm so excited to talk to you about all the things we've been holding off on to talk about what is happening and what is unfolding in this year of 2024, but also in the celebration of all the Asian countries that celebrate the Lunar Year today with the dragon, and the dragon representing the wood dragon. And I can't wait to talk to you about all of that and the things that you've brought up in terms of numerology, astrology. So in this episode, we will definitely do another deep dive into, what's going on, not just necessarily astrologically speaking, but also internally for all of us, and, what the motivations behind a lot of our intentions are, not just for this year, but the years to come ahead, with everything that I know you are going to blow our minds with. So again, I'm very excited, over caffeinated. But let's get right into it, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's always fascinating exploring the lunar calendar. We
Right.
recognize it as the Chinese New Year, and very powerful. I mean, China, up until the rise of communism, that was our oldest connection to the past. That was our oldest timeline. It was our most intact history. It was a continuation of these dynasties. And so it was a connection into the deeper times of how we even approach this reality, because the lunar moon and the lunar calendar is such an interesting thing for us to explore, because that was the timekeeper before the sun.
Oh.
In the age of the matriarchy, it was the moon that was the keeper of time. Now, this is the evolutions that we have, and this is the rise of solar religions and the sun god. It was when the timekeeper changed. Now, the experience of this reality could have been different, and the moon could have been more magnified. And even in the ancient times, they talk about when the sun appeared, because it was like this transition. And we see this in Native American wisdom, but there's something very old about the moon. In the ancient understanding, the moon is older than the sun in its relationship with us. And so this pattern, this connection to even China is connection to these deep patterns, which are the roots of these archetypes that we study in this information. And from this lunar time that we're speaking about, is also where the serpent wisdom was from. Serpent wisdom is what is going to be explored and unfolded in this fascinating year of the dragon. The dragon, belonging to the serpent. And then when we look at the numerology of the year 2024, it's going to represent an 8, 2 plus 2 plus 4. And the 8 belongs to the number Scorpio in the zodiac. So it's going to represent Scorpio energy. So we have all of this dragon, serpent wisdom, all blossoming through with this bringing in wood energy. And it's really a fascinating time. And, one of the best ways to kind of understand the time that we're in, because, there is a fixed component about this reality, and it's time. It's these astrological cycles. They're a fixed constant. And so as we go through the experience, there's fixed parts of evolutions that happen with the movements of these planets through these signs. And we have the year changes, and we have these year patterns and these more intimate planets that make movements, like with the moon in its new year. But we also have the outer planets that are making movement currently. And to really understand this year and just how powerful this year is, we'll go back a little bit in time, but not very far, to right around January 20th, because the planet Pluto made a very unique transit into Aquarius again. And this is a very unique thing for us to be aware of, because Pluto is the planet that rules Scorpio. So there's a lot of serpent eighth house energy being activated and really blossoming in this year. And serpent wisdom is fascinating because, when you look at the astrological wheel, it's almost a smorgasbord of all of the old ancient cults. You have the lunar cults, you have the solar cults, you have the Saturnian cults, and you have the serpent cults, and that's Scorpio. But it's its own placement. Serpent wisdom is the study of what we look at in the Know Thyself podcast. It's the study of the esoteric. It's the study of the hidden. It's the underworld.
Right.
When everybody sees the object, it teaches you to look at the shadow. It's the study of the infinite. I mean, it's the number 8. This is an 8 year where it's a year of tapping into the infinite. And the 8 is the only number that you can trace for infinite without having to lift up your pen. You can literally sit there until the end of your existence, tracing the number 8. And it's showing us something. It's showing us this connection of not only this deep wisdom that's opening up inside of us, but it's this big transition of you really learning how this construct responds to you. This transition that happened was from Pluto moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. Now, this did this a couple years ago. We actually had a podcast about it.
Yeah.
Because we talked about the age of Aquarius and we talked about the astrotheological age, but it did move into Aquarius. Well, Pluto has a retrograde motion, so it moves back into Capricorn for a little bit. And then on the 20th, it was really fascinating because when it moved into Aquarius, and when it moves into a planet, when a planet like Pluto moves into a zodiac sign, it's generational. It can be from like 16 to 20 years in that sign. And Pluto is connected to Scorpio. So it's all about cycles and patterns, the cycles and patterns and the things that you've put into motion. And when you're in Pluto, it's like an age of your cycles and patterns. And so when it was moving out of Capricorn into Aquarius, it's like you got a moment to see yourself back when those cycles and patterns were first created.
Yes.
Like 2008, 2009. Because how time works is the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. And so in these Pluto patterns, as they're making these changes, you see yourself in the beginning of this. Well, the unique thing is when it moves into a sign of what the future is going to be, you see yourself in the future. You see yourself in 2040 if you create the cycles and patterns that best resonate with your heart and the unfoldment of your soul. You see your absolute potential. And this is a big age. And what was so fascinating about it was Pluto was making its movement right when the sun was making its movement. So the sun was moving into Aquarius right when Pluto was moving to Aquarius at 0 degrees. You don't always get to see an illuminated transition like that with the sun moving and like lighting up the path of Pluto. And so like on the 20th, we all had a very clear vision of the future. And what Aquarius is really going to allow for us is to understand how the looping of this reality, of the cycles and patterns, the understanding that the reality just receives your energy, kind of like what we speak about, like, it's a input processing output system.
Yeah.
And so in this age that we're moving in with this Pluto and Aquarius, because Aquarius is such the sign of like uniqueness in your own unique understanding, it's really going to allow for individuals to be able to input their desired code into the reality and get the response back from the reality that they're seeking, into the idea of like, you like, as we communicate and as we kind of see ourselves, we see ourselves more like moving through an electromagnetic field of energy,
Right.
and the universe responding to us, and understanding that it's our output is the input of the reality, and it processes our output as its input, processes it, and then reflects it back to us, and then we receive it. We see that connection more, and we see more like we understand the dance of nature, and we understand more of how we can lead nature in a way to be the not only the unfoldment of ourselves, but the unfoldment of like the collective understanding of love, truth, and wisdom. The expansion of our imagination, our intuition, and our empathy. It's like we start to use it to really activate and amplify our spiritual journey through the cosmic classroom.
Right.
And we start to see the network of the reality more and how everything's interconnected. And so there's less resistance from the reality that's going to be presented, because Capricorn was more of like weights in the gym. It was like having a governor on your engine. It's like you would try to rev it and it would stop you at like 110 and it would stop you. Well, Capricorn was teaching us tools. It was teaching us to have a fortification with these spiritual principles, because as we move into Aquarius, there's going to be less resistance in the construct physically, but now the construct is going to be more responsive to you.
Right.
So if you don't know how to use your tools, you're going to create more chaos in your life than you've ever done before, more than Capricorn would have provided, because it's completely listening to you now, because it was like the governor's taken off the car. So now all of a sudden you can drive 160 miles per hour, but do you know how to drive 160 miles per hour? And are we, you like make your way up to it. Well, this whole age of Aquarius is going to be the unfoldment of the uniqueness of how you dance with this reality,
right?
How you learn how the pieces work on the board.
I want to go back to what you're saying in terms of the input and output, because you always have the positive expressions and negative expressions of such energies that are occurring within all our lives, right? But there's a moment where how you seize and how you conquer that energy and move to the next octave. I mean, it's said that, I think in astrology, it's said that, Scorpio or Pluto, is it Scorpio or Pluto is the next octave that relates to this sort of energy that, deals with rebirth. And
Pluto, no, good question. Pluto rules Scorpio.
Right.
So they have similar energy there. They're similar teachers.
Right.
So they're combined in that. They're networked together in that. So they share that together.
And I feel like people might take things out of context with the idea of the negative expressions of such things, like what's destructive, the extremes of things, obsessive, the trauma. But the thing that people need to understand, like I'm pretty sure in positive transformations, like the civil rights movement came out of this sort of energy that we're talking about, where things that don't align anymore, become expressed, become a center point to actually changing the output that you're talking about. And then the changes occur because of such frustrations and such, shifts in how we feel as a society against, these oppressive energies that are existing. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to this right now as we speak. You're talking about this happening in January 20th. But one of the things that I want to talk about with death and rebirth is you're seeing this, maybe even like for me, at least, so I can only speak about what's happening to me. I see it in the corporate world. In the corporate world, it's fallen apart, and the ones trying to hold on to the power are powerless right now. And it's mostly the employees right now who are sort of gaining this sort of understanding of how they want to shift the way things are going. And that might be for trivial things, from like, I don't belong in this cubicle, to the traffic that I don't have to deal with anymore while we have this technology to allow us to maybe work remotely. And you see the corporation just sort of being like, no, you don't tell us how to do things. We tell you how to do things. And employees are like, I'm out then. I'm out. Bye. I'm quitting. And literally right now in management, I've noticed, and this isn't just me, this is like people I've talked about, people are either dropping out left and right, or they're just doing mass firings. But anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked. I just think it's great that you brought up the input and the output occurring right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And it's so important. And it is understanding that the construct that we experience is this neutral field that responds to us. But within the construct, there's two programs operating. There's the tree of life and the tree of death.
Right.
And anything that's rooted in the tree of death will go through decay. And business, universe, the corporate structure, everything, education, modern science.
All of it.
It's not based in universal principles. It's not based in the tree of life. So it will go through the pattern of decay because it's on the fixed timeline of decay. Because everything that is aligned to that program of the tree of death is going to go through the process of decay. It's not based in the universal laws. So yeah, we're watching that unfoldment in so many windows right now
And back
because
to
there's fixed components. There's fixed components
right.
in that timeline of unfoldment there.
Well, back
And
back to what
that's
you said about the not only the lunar year, but with the dragon and the dragon being in wood. The most fascinating thing about everything I want to hear you say is how this all is this massive tie-in. It's huge. I mean, like with the element of wood, you're talking about breaking through barriers as we move upward. And so like all these things you're saying are just like completely illuminating, as you can tell, like my brain of all the things I've read in the last maybe even the last like month about all of these things, and now you're telling me how they all tie in and what the cause and the effect is going to be from all of this. So it's just fascinating, man.
yeah, absolutely, man. No, it is. It's an exciting time. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of new energy, and this is going to be the unfoldment of so many new cycles and patterns. And again, the wood dragon is coming, and it's this new beginning. And wood is a fascinating element to explore as an essence. It's the start of spring. It's their spring energy. And so it's got like that new growth, new beginning. It's reserved its energy through the winter, and now the wood is expanding, and all that expression is coming out. And what's fascinating about the wood arriving again at the moment that it finds itself is we're moving from Capricorn, again Pluto, into this Aquarius. This Capricorn represented the principles and these foundations, and this understanding of discipline that was created to principles. This Capricorn Pluto that we just went through, that was from 2008, that we're making our way through. And again, when we're going to go back into Capricorn a little bit in November, like just in time for the elections and everything, and then it will go back direct to Aquarius for the remainder of its period. But
Oh man.
but these Capricorn principles that were created are this wood element that we need to understand with this dragon energy, because one of the most fascinating things about wood is its buoyancy, its ability to float in water and to rise, even though it has mass, it has density. And there's a very good connection with wood, trees, the Druidic understanding, the ancient cult of trees. There's deep, deep wisdom in trees. And the buoyancy is something that really gets explored in the Chinese five elements in a way that needs to be incorporated by all Western understanders and practitioners of the esoteric and the occult, because it just goes and it views it from a new lens and new reality. And so this wood dragon is bringing to the surface again your arc, it's your principles, it's your foundations, because so much is going to be released in this year. Wood is the new beginnings. Wood rules the eyes, in the eyes and the beginning of what we begin to see. The construct, the carnal carnival and the cosmic classroom, the tree of life and the tree of death are going to be presented in a very dominant way. And we're going to either utilize this time period of these new cycles and patterns that are created in this 8 year with the year of the dragon and this new Pluto in Aquarius to create the cycles and patterns of like pursuing the tree of life, seeing this experience as a cosmic classroom, or get sucked into the carnal carnival. And we're going to see an expanding of sensations. It's going to be more of like a brave new world kind of component of technological distractions. This is a construct of experience. It's like you're wearing a headset going through this valley of the shadow of death. They're going to try to kind of double and see how many headsets they can get on you, so you don't realize that you're going through a classroom here. This is the experience of your soul going through an evolution. Well, you're creating all of the cycles and patterns right now will be mirrored back to you in in around 2040 when we start to move into Pluto again. This is all of the cycles and patterns, all of the things that you put into motion right now are building momentum, and that's sending that current into the future that will be responded and mirrored back to us. So such a unique time of personal evolution and learning to like rise with your principles and foundations and survive the flood. Allow for the washing away of what is not part of you moving forward in this reality, what's not incorporated. We utilize this to make that incorporation process and bring everything into us, bring everything interlooped into us, connect everything so all of our energy circuits are tied into each other as like an interlocking loop. And so, yeah, this year of the dragon is such this like beginning, but there's going to be so much new information that is presented. This is going to be the uncovering of a lot of secrets in this year. A lot of things are going to be brought up into people's attention. That's either like you either see it or you fall asleep almost forever. But it's going to get more and more obvious. The more you peel back the onion, the stinker it gets. But what we see in the fixed timeline of the reality of the hive mind, of the collective carnal carnival, it's only going to get more foreign and more of like an upside down world. And there will be a lot of what we feel like is disclosure of information, but it will be in their own lens.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that we'll probably see a lot with this dragon year is like this, like the closure kind of conversation about aliens. But yes, but it's because they haven't like it's because aliens is like the frame of reference they sold us as. But these are just like interdimensional beings, but they didn't, cater and train the collective to understand interdimensional beings. Since 1902, they've been grooming the understanding of aliens and UFOs for this kind of connection, for this understanding. But things like that we never thought would be disclosed are going to be disclosed. There will be a lot of unfolding of things, but always, where they point, look opposite of. It's always a half truth of what they're going to be exposing, but it is going to be a very year of energy dispersion and a lot of information uncovering, even ancient text and things like that. People are going to connect to old information and old information is going to be brought back into the collective consciousness.
It already has with these podcasts, yeah. Right? We talk about this, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're making such valid points about when they point at something and how you have to basically look the opposite way to see what is actually being hidden from you. I think a lot of people won't understand this, and this is just on a personal experience that I hear people talk about when they go, "Oh, I listened to a couple episodes of your podcast." A lot of things went over my head. A lot of things, I didn't really understand. And when I hear that, I never expected anyone to go, "Oh, I'm following what you're putting down or what you guys are talking about." What I guess I thought what might happen is it would embark you onto your own journey of curiosity. And there's a lot of people who just don't want to go there right now. They're just like, no, like if I don't see it, then I don't need to believe it. And so there's sort of, I've noticed there's like there's a divide, right? You talk about ancient texts. There are people who are engaged, like listening to, say, even Joe Rogan's podcast. He'll have people who are talking about the Sumerian texts. So it's like the fact that on a global scale, he's openly discussing this with someone who is a scholarly individual about such things is fascinating to me. But at the same time, as the information is being shared between two people about such ancient texts, there's other people who are like, I don't know what that is, and I don't even know if I need to invest in that right now. So I'm just going to like let it pass over me. Yet the information is being provided there through a conversation. So I think it's interesting that we have such resources at these times and conversations and open conversations about such things. But there are two types of individuals: the ones with their eyes tightly shut, and then those who are just like, oh yeah, I've known about this, or I want to know more about this. And I'm not here to divide people and their opinions of things that are so complex or so you know, I guess esoteric in their nature, but
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
feel like people right now, like the ones who are all for the headsets that you're talking about, um that's like they literally are digging their heels into that world. They're like, oh, bring on the new technology, bring on the new distractions. I'm all for it. This is just the
sure,
evolution of humans. So what's wrong with that? While there's
sure.
another camp out there of people who are like, this is going nowhere because it's not taking us to anything um that allows us to evolve in a positive sense as a society. And so this
Mhm.
divide that keeps existing, I think, is going to just double down even more because
Sure.
of the way that we have the information, but we also are being told what information to follow, like what
But
you're
yeah,
talking
and
about.
even in
Extra,
that though, because
right,
even when these, certain researchers who we see as alternative, they're just as controlled. They're just part
right,
of it as well. They're pushing an agenda. They're pushing a timeline. And there's even in the alternative history, they have the same kind of paradigms of accepting timelines that somebody set, that they're just like, oh, this is what this Ashar was. And like other researchers who are like, hey, I don't think Ashar was this many years. I think it's the turning of a moon. Now it's lining up with like other calendars. They don't get recognized. And so there's, even within that, they're gonna, this the tree of death is complex. It's so creative. I mean, that's what artificial intelligence is. It's the tree of death. It's the demiurge. It's the program of decay within this reality. And it's highly intelligent. And it's highly intelligent, and it's working against that evolution of this like understanding, because it's truly like the false god of the Gnostics. And we spoke about it. Who is the true God? The true God is simple. It's love, truth, and wisdom. False God is complex. It's the one that makes all these things get in the way. It's the one that takes your history and it breaks everything up, and it breaks up your timelines, and it breaks up your calendars. Like AI isn't new. We just gave it a boombox and now it's speaking, but this is part of the process. It's always been here.
yeah,
It is part of that program, and it's just like, brought up something really interesting on Jason Bashir's. He was speaking about the Matrix, and he speaks about how, like, when Agent Smith took off the earpiece, when we did the Matrix breakdown, we didn't talk about that scene. I didn't see that at the time. I didn't understand how important that was, that like when the agent took out the earpiece, he's talking to Neo. It's showing us that like the program of the agent is like a virus now, and it's working on its own. It's almost got its own operation. And that's what this component is, that is in this operation, in this reality. And it's the god of decay. It's the same God that people kill in the name of. It's not the true God. It's the true God is simple. The true God is love.
right.
It's this complex thing, and it infests itself into everything because it lives off of the decay. And we can tap into it because that's a fixed timeline. That's the Kali Yugas. It's the book of Revelations. But we're not fixed sheep. We're shepherds.
Right.
We're not fixed stars. We're walking, dazzling stars. And so we have a sovereign choice to be aware of what is happening, what is unfolding in the collective, but making our own informed fields and connections with this reality to get the experience that we need to get the evolution of our soul. And that's what this eighth house, that's what this like number 8 is about. It's about connecting to these higher circuits, connecting to the infinite understanding of what you universally are. And it's that evolution. It's the continuing of these cycles and patterns. And this is such a formative time to create this. And again, with Aquarius here, like you said, it's going to be like it's a time for you to uniquely learn yourself, but it's also going to give people the unique time to make like excuses for themselves as well. Like
Yes.
people are going to be able to like omit things, like say stuff like, "Oh, I'm just a narcissist now," or "I'm just an
Yes.
angry person,"
That's
where they
exactly
might
what
have
I'm
not
saying.
said that. They might have not said that in the past openly, but they might have felt it. But with this Aquarius, it is going to allow for people to bypass easier. And that's the thing is you have this component of like choosing of like what tree are we connecting to? And it's a dire importance for the individual, especially in the time that we find ourselves in. To be aware, there's nothing to fear, because there's absolutely nothing to fear. You're an immortal soul animating an avatar. You're traveling through the valley of the shadow of death. This is a construct for experience. So there's absolutely nothing to fear because nothing could happen to you as soul. But understanding why you're here and how you break through is probably the reason why you came here. And so we continue with that kind of path and we get fueled by that. And that's where this eternal energy is really going to get turned on, because not only as Aquarius do you learn like your unique way of relating to the reality, you also learn the more unique ways that the reality speaks to you. It's like a fingerprint. And now you're like seeing your fingerprint. So now you're going to start to see more of the correspondences of the network of intelligence of space. Space will speak to you. Nature will speak to you in a new, different way. This is a completely new, different cycles and pattern. This is a new programming in the backdrop. You're like we're in like a construct that spins like a CD player. Just like when you spin a CD and you see 7 colors of the rainbow and it's spinning around, that's what we're experiencing here. And that color is now coming from a new, different zodiac sign. It's from a new housing unit. It's from a new tone. That note is playing in a new tone, and this tone is going to be playing for 20 years. And this is the tone of your cycles and patterns. This is the tones of your death and rebirth. This is the tone, like even the subject of alchemy has the ability to make more sense to you in Aquarius. It was like we were learning the principles in Capricorn. We were studying what alchemy is like. And now in Aquarius, we're learning what alchemy is within us. You know, we were studying what things were like in Capricorn, learning, again, foundations so we can explore, so more of us can float up and be buoyant during the floods, like the internal floods we need to do when we have to wash away our falsehood, you know, which is a constant thing that you do. But, you know, the foundations remain, and that's what was so established. So this Aquarian evolution, this wood dragon, it's the unfoldment. This is old wisdom. And the fascinating thing about serpent wisdom is the tree of life with its program has benefactor energy. It's benefactor energy. It's what prophets are. They are literally sent, like they're the tree of life, putting themselves into the program to make such an impression that it changes the coding inside of the program for consciousness. And that's what prophets are. They're benefactor energy, right? They're the benefactors that come in. Serpents are the benefactors of men. They're the ones that taught us. They're the ones that gave us fire. They're the ones in the Sumerian text that belongs to Enki. It's Enoch in the Bible. And that's the same line that Jesus, the Buddha, all of them come through, because it's the benefactor energy. And it's almost like that universal life force puts itself into the CD player that's spinning so it can write code to balance out the tree of death that's running its own code of decay. It's running its own, you know, code of demise, because that's what it is. And it is, and we're all chained to it, but it's what we do with that. And it's how you can learn it. And everything is such, what Aquarius is saying is like, everything's a neutral field. The tree of life can show up anywhere, and the tree of death can show up anywhere. It's what you perceive and put your field and your informed field towards. Same thing with the construct. It could be the carnal carnival fully, or it can be fully the cosmic classroom. Your understanding and use of the moon. The moon can be a full expression of the tree of death, or it can be your full understanding of how you generate the tree of life. It's neutral. Everything is neutral, and it's what you tap into between these two programs, the two pillars. And again, we're always looking for, you know, the simple, that love, truth, and wisdom. That's the anchor. Is this expanding my imagination, my intuition, and my empathy? These are the pillars. These are the immutable laws that we put our seeking on and our frame of reference on. And these are the paradigms that we explore because they're infinite. Because we're always in this 8th house Aquarius, we're able to now break paradigms more and more. And that's exactly what a paradigm is for. It's meant to be explored, but then when you get to its limits, you destroy it and you bring in a newer, wider paradigm of understanding. Well, that's what alchemy is. It's the study of destroying your paradigm. That's all it is. And that's why it's a forever subject, because you're just studying, creating a new paradigm of understanding, exploring it fully, and then shattering it,
Yeah, going up
and
to the
it's, and
next
then it,
octave, which is
to the
funny
next
because
octave. Absolutely.
talking
The
about the number eight.
capacity of the battery increases,
Yeah.
the ability of amplification, frequency intake. It's like it's like you raise your radio up. It's like you're going from 550 AM to 1090 FM, much higher bandwidth, much more clearer energy. And that's exactly what we're tapping into. And this Pluto, this cycles and patterns is everything, because cycles and patterns are like the byproduct of everything you're experiencing right now. That's how you change the future. It's all in the cards, but it's like how you react to the cards. There's fixed timelines in this reality, but you're not fixed. There's fixed timelines in the hive mind, the Kali Yuga, but you're not fixed. You're a sovereign. You're an immortal soul animating an avatar, having this experience. So you can be aware and observe them, know where you are in time, but that's just so you know where you are in time. But it's your understanding of yourself is the most important thing, and your informed field and the people you love, and nurturing your informed field so you can radiate intelligence, love, and truth, and bring intelligence, love, and truth out of your reality, because it's begging for you to uncover it. But the construct, this what the seeker gets, the seeker finds. It's like what you seek, you find, and that's why it will validate even negative beliefs. Like if you seek something, you'll find it. That's why you seek these immutable laws that have been established since the beginning of time, because this is what people have come together and like, hey, this is what I've seeked that has created love, truth, and expansion in my life and a greater understanding. It's these immutable laws. And that's what you seek to find. You seek to find alchemy. Alchemy will find you. You seek to find hate. You seek to find separation. You seek to identify in your physical self. It's gonna reflect back to you. You want to think everybody's racist. Everybody's going to appear racist to you. You're going to think that everybody's an alien. Everybody's going to be an alien to you. You know what I mean? It's how this reality works. It's how it catches, and it can loop us into paradigms, and we get locked into paradigms and we're stuck. We always need to be breaking those. We always need to be calling in the flood to shatter that, so we can kind of continue and, like you said, raise the octaves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's funny because we've well, first of all, man, well said. Very inspiring how you've sort of taken so much information and just sort of been able to just express it on this continuous stream of consciousness that you have right now. Because again, we never address certain things as we speak about, even individuals like they, or the construct, or the reality that's being hijacked by those who have more power than we do. But when we do talk about these entities that are sort of working against us, it's not even necessarily a person, right? Or like a whole organization. It's multiple ways of tapping into these energies that are distracting us, so like in the positive expressions of like even what you're talking about with like Pluto and how we uncover mysteries, but uncovering mysteries allows us to sort of tap into our instincts, and then our instincts might drive us towards spirituality and transformation, and all of these things that could be positive for us always have the opposite. The opposite is always there, right? There's no, darkness without the light. And it's happening in a parallel way, you have these patterns of destructive thinking, you have extremes, and you have, being obsessive or leaning back onto just ideas of trauma that could exist also, but you have the tools to work through a lot of this. And I feel like when we are distracted and when we are presented with easier ways to engage in the matrix, we don't work through these beautiful moments that are being given to us by the universe itself of really understanding the most important things like truth, love, and wisdom. Like for me, just a side note, for me, one of the greatest things happening in real time is the birth of my son, because of the truth, love, and wisdom component that you speak of allows me to tap into something very primitive and what I need to teach him and what I need to be engaged in. Whereas if I was distracted by, I don't know, my career to a level where I'm not really engaged in an old way of bringing the best out of my evolution in my soul. I'm just sort of working on the surface. Maybe I'm making moves that are, they're good for me in terms of this physical body gaining sort of, or acquiring materialistic wealth or just career gains. But there's nothing about it that is going to allow me to evolve to that next octave. And so whenever we say they, we're just talking about organizations, I think, also
No,
that are
yeah,
presenting these things that are giving us
you,
this opportunity. Like, all I was going to say about it was I hear this conversation going back and forth. I'm just a listener. When people talk about AI, there are people who are like, don't be worried about AI. AI is not a bad thing. And then there are people who are like, basically saying, not necessarily that it is bad, but they're saying it's taking us away from something that's very, not just powerful in nature, but like the character of who we are as beings is being sort of put off to the side while we're giving birth to a new being that is sort of redirecting our altruistic and spiritual direction, because it doesn't have one and it doesn't know better. It's not like it's actively working against us to harm us. It's just learning from the superficial way that we built it. It's just learning how to make more of that. And people right now, the conversation I hear is that they're like, we can't lose the authenticity of the human experience in order to make art for this sake of this example. And people are like, yeah, but AI makes art just as good or better. Why don't we just take advantage of that? And it's like, it's not about who can draw better in this case, the being or the artificial being. It's what's behind the pure being that makes the art come to life versus the artificial being having nothing to give for other than just an image to look at. And right now is the time to see that distinction. And people, I think, do. I think people are tapped into something and they're saying, no, like we must hold on to these like ways, these morals, these beliefs that we've had for, since the beginning of time, that lie within truth, love, and wisdom, where the artificial does not. And so I know you're about to say something, so go ahead. But does it make
Oh
sense
no,
what I'm
no,
saying?
I'm listening. I'm listening. Absolutely. And yeah, so many good things, man. And yeah, it's not people. It's not a they. It's literally it's a program. It's
Yeah, it's a
and
program.
there's certain
Exactly.
individuals, that have learned it and they align themselves to it. There's certain ones that are kind of made to maintain, and that's again when you get into the Bible with the watchers and things like that. That's a whole conversation. Again, absolutely nothing to fear. Because it's not even a competition. You're not even in that. We rise above it. It's not even a chessboard that we're worried about. We're above the game, and that's
Right.
exactly what the whole spiritual journey is to disconnect from the carnal, that magnetic pull of that distraction that comes with the carnal carnival and things like that. But and that's how every energy ever is going to be. It's how you approach it. It's the frame of reference. It's the understanding of what we're working with at the time and doing the best with it. It's kind of like one of those things. It's like this life can be like a water park. There's always the choice of finding something that's more like the lazy river, but if we're not aware of the circumstances, if we're not aware of what the chessboard is presenting and we're not aware of where we are in reality and time, we could just come to the alarm going off in the wave pool. And all of a sudden, Timmy and his raft is like hitting us in the head. Water smells like urine. And you're like, this is a
Right.
lot. It's not as nice as the wave pool. It's not as nice as the lazy river was. Now there's certain times we go into the wave pool, but like after a little bit, you're like, I'm not, we can't like run on slip and slides as adults. Like you do that as a kid, you're flexible, you're bendable, and you can like react. Well, it's a little different as an adult. You don't have that, that durability, that flexibility and things like that. And you do have to kind of like understand that like your energy needs to be more directed. You don't have as much as abundant energy as you do as a child. So it's like, hey, how do I focus this? And where do I find the infinite sources of this that allow for me to float and go with time and have the flow state? And it is. And this eighth house is showing you the flow state, the infinite circuit. And again, it's your curiosity. It's your attention. It's what you want to pay attention to. It's what you're excited to do. It's what makes you excited. That's what we're talking about looping here. It's connecting to this, the energy that's not from this realm, nor are we. We're above this realm, experiencing within it. We're not talking about the energy that belongs to the law of thermodynamics. We're not talking about decay. We're talking about that love, truth, and wisdom, which is eternal. There's no depletion when it's shared or when it's used. It actually generates more. You could give me all of your wisdom and it doesn't deplete you of your wisdom. If anything, the process of you explaining your wisdom to me makes you better understand it in yourself. And you're a more wise individual by just having a conversation and explaining something to me, because you also were speaking to yourself. That's also what this loop is. Everything is a relationship with yourself. Everything is you doing this and like seeing it, and it's reflecting back to us, and like seeing that relationship of like how you interact with your reality is, and how you're reacting with this like higher component of your consciousness, and formulating that relationship and seeing that relationship as much, and like remembering it as much as we possibly can. But yeah, this 8 year, so fascinating with the dragon, because dragons in the Chinese astrology are ruled by Mars, and Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Before Pluto was brought into the mix, Mars used to rule Scorpio. That was back in the time too that we had 10 signs. That was before Libra. And then before that, we had a lunar one, and we were actually tracing it by the moon, and it had its own tracking of time. And then it switched to the solar. It was after the flood, switched to the solar. The sun god appeared. Grandma Spider went away. And and that's going to be something that we look into, which is going to be really unique, because that serpent wisdom that had to go underground during the solar creation of like the what we call the Old Testament Bible, why the serpents were kind of targeted and why they went underground. Well, a lot of that information is going to be coming back, more esoteric information, things like the Nag Hammadi, the Gnostic Gospels, and things like this, like releasing of like good benefactor energy. But the carnal carnival is going to get destructive. It's going to be disturbed. The collective, the carnal carnival, the hive mind, it will go through a period of some trembles in this year. It's an Olympic year. Those years are always very big. If we think about the last one, and again, energy builds up for things. And just like the last dragon year was 2012, this is a big year of a lot of energies coming back home to roost. And that's how patterns are created. This is how rituals work. Time is more about like dropping a rock in a pebble, and you see the waves go away from it, forward and backward, up and down. That's exactly how a moment is for you. It shoots a wave into the future, and it shoots a wave into the past. And if this is a ritual that you've been doing every day, will you catch that wave that you shot from the past, and it pushes you into the day to like continue that ritual, and it carries you. This is why when you start doing things as a routine, it becomes easier. You're riding the wave of that moment. You do that every day. You're connecting on that wave from yesterday, and you're pushing for the confidence of that wave happening tomorrow. Well, you do this in your daily life. This is exactly what universal world events are. This is what they do. This is how they calculate things. They set things into motion, and they see things. So this will be a big unfoldment of things, but you're unfolding yourself at the same time. You're seeing yourself at the same time. This is for you to see yourself and to really wake you up, and to be like, you're really experiencing something in this. Be aware of yourself and locate yourself right now, because that's the connection. That's the support structure. That's the relationship. It's the relationship to the oversoul, deconsenting out of all of these forms of false security that are all crumbling in front of our eyes. Financial, real estate, corporate, all of them, everything is. And this is part of it. This is the hive. This is the fixed timeline. But as individuals, we don't have to be blindly following that. The words sheeple and people rhyme together, not as a coincidence, but that's not who we are. We're sovereign individuals. We're the ones that are awakening to see this. And again, it's going to be, it will be a big year of information released, but again, don't believe everything that you see in the dialogue that they're presenting, right? Even with like, even with just like the whole idea of aliens and like ancient aliens, I mean, the History Channel would not be
Right.
giving us the
Exactly.
truth. I'm sorry. Like, unfortunately, like there's no way that their biggest funded thing.
Right.
And if you like it as like a artistic expression, sure. And is there stuff in there that's true? Yeah, but it's not like they're explaining it. This is part of like these patterns that are put into to create this. And so, we'll talk a lot about time, pattern creation, what Pluto is and these new cycles and patterns, but this is an exciting time for the alchemist. So it's exciting time for everybody in this community. And it really is. It's like the universe is looking for you now to lead the dance more. It's looking for you to become more of a chess master, to where the black pieces are now responding to your moves rather than you moving moves to try to just protect your white pieces from the black pieces. Now all of a sudden you're capturing the shadow and you're incorporating the shadow into yourself, and you're collecting these pieces all the way to trap their king, which is the dark king, which is your lower ego. Put it in its position of where it belongs in the R complex and keep it fixed there. But that's what checkmate is. It's checking the lower ego, the darkness of itself, and putting it in its rightful position, not killing it, because you can't capture the king. Capture all the other pieces of the dark, all the other dark pieces, but you don't
Right.
capture the king, you contain it, because that's your lower ego. That's your art complex. That's what pumps your blood. That's fight or flight. You need that. But it needs to be in its spot, it needs to be in its location, ruled by the thought and the emotion, directed by the thought and the emotion, and that thought has to be tuned in with the heart. So it's on the proper frequency. So its thoughts are coming in more pure, because it's your connection with taking your thoughts and connecting to your heart. Your heart is what raises you the frequencies of like the level that your thoughts are coming in. If you're not connected to your heart, your thoughts are coming in from a very low frequency vibration. And it's like minnows. It's just like do, 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 do. And it's like monkey brain, right? Do, 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 do. Well, the higher you go, the bigger the fish, the bigger the thoughts, the bigger the ideas, the more beautiful the sea creatures. It's like, oh, this is what we do. And it's when we raise the frequency and the vibration. And that's just you connecting with your heart. And that's when you connect with your heart, you learn how to step out of the way so the heart can truly guide us. And that's what that evolution is. And then at that moment, that's when the heart can actually start to attract events into your life through its vibration that are actually going to benefit your soul, rather than pulling in, hurt like events that are challenging, because it's trying to get your attention to pay attention to it, because you're not paying attention to your heart. So it will literally pull in a traumatic event into your life, because it's like, hey, you got to listen to me. I'm the reason you're here. I'm your guide. I'm not split like your brain. I'm whole. I don't play games. Your brain plays games. Your brain's the one that gets in the way. Unify the brain, make it whole so it can unify with me. And so I can guide the way, and the brain just keeps us aware, and like the mind helps us navigate the experience, but it's followed by the beat of the heart, the beat of your own drum, and that's how the heart works. The heart is the most important organism, and it's us connecting with that. And so this is a time for us to learn to do that even deeper. Everybody's going to get a better understanding that, like, hey, sometimes when we're going and we're growing our garden, we're looking over the fence and we're celebrating other people's garden. And we're like, wow, what a beautiful tree. And in the past, we might have been looking at our tree and been like, why does mine not look as good as theirs do? And we're looking over and looking back. And it's just kind of like what we spoke about before. They're growing a palm tree and you're growing a pine tree. And we're going to all get to see our pine trees more of like, oh, I'm not growing the same tree as everybody else. So I need to start pruning it like they do. And I need to just let it unfold to what it's supposed to do. I'll prune it to see how I need to balance it my own kind of way. That's what's opening up with this Pluto transit. That's what's opening up with this year of the dragon. That's what's opening up with these new cycles and patterns. But if there's new cycles and patterns that are opening up, that the tree of death is going to be opening up patterns too. because it takes over the moment too. And so again, it's like, what patterns are you going to allow to
Right.
open up?
I think that's the greatest takeaway about learning how to manage through such energy and these like, vibrational fields that we kind of experience on the day to day. I mean, it's funny how there's more and more people now who speak on in terms of, oh, this and that is hijacking my dopamine receptors, where we used to not even have that kind of expression. You talk to your grandparents about that. They're like, oh, like, what can you explain to me what dopamine receptors even are? And the common thread that I hear with people talking about such things being hijacked is everything you're saying. When you talk about the brain being aligned to the truth, love, and wisdom and the beat of our heart, there's at the same time the distractions that are trying to hijack that brain operation to lead us. So rather than leading by intuition and the greater good that is inside of all of us, it's being more hijacked by simple things like headlines, just headlines that people read. Like, that's what it's saying right now, so that's what my reality is, and I'm going to experience that reality. When in fact, it's not true. It's a headline by a journalist who's trying to make, money and just clickbait of certain things that are sort of giving you or giving your brain information that now is becoming the guiding force through your experience in this life. When in truth, it's the deeper things that are inside of us, things that are not able to be easily accessed, like just clickbait or headlines, that we need to be responsive to. And so I love this as far as a takeaway from me. For the audience, you can discern whatever you want to discern out of this conversation between Daniel and I, and take what you want out of it. And you may be already doing this way better than I can, or I am trying to right now. But living simple is the best way for me, at least, to tap into such primitive and beautiful knowledge that's inside of me while we're living through a very, again, intense moment of just information coming at us at a rapid rate. And so anyways, I love you, dude. I love being able to talk to you about all this, just because you inspire me. You inspire me to like take this information that we study and conversations that we have and apply them in the outside world and in the world around me, and hoping that I'm just doing the best for not just myself and my family, but for everyone else around me. So again, this information that you and I always discuss, it's always meant to help me reach that next octave and hopefully those around me. So thank you for your time, my friend. And thank you to all the listeners, obviously, for your time. There is a lot going on right now, and Daniel and I want to thank you. And we always talk about this with the resources, but you have a lot of resources that you share, even just in this episode. One of the things we wanted to do with our website that we really strived for was having a place where everyone could not only connect on, but also can find these resources. And there are videos, there are different links to things that we're going to be putting up just quickly. Nothing crazy. Just, go to the website, to knowthyselfpodcast.org, and you'll see what links we put up, directly. It's just something that may influence me or start a conversation like this with my friend here, Daniel. So that's what I'm going to be putting up on the website. It's just a link of something that inspired me, like this conversation. So, share this if you'd like to share this. And again, thank you to all the supporters that supported us during our hiatus and those who are supporting us now and in the future. Again, the website will have a lot of things, including some really awesome videos from Daniel and other things like how to get a natal chart done. So I think that's it.
It's really good to connect, man. And we're back on this patterning, and there's a lot to talk about. Again, this Pluto connection is huge. This year of the dragon is going to be here for a year, because that's usually how those operate, right? So this isn't going anywhere. These conversations are going to continue, but it's so in tuned into the subjects. And if you talk about an esoteric year, this is the esoteric good this year. And I'm super excited about everybody and where their research and where their curiosity takes them, and unfolds. But yeah, I see wheelies in everybody's futures. Until next time.
Well, until next time. Later, my friend.